Game of Thrones season 6 just ended, and to be quite honest, it's one of the greatest shows I've ever seen on television, and for good reason, because Game of Thrones for years and years has been the staple of television drama, of just producing one of the best, one of the biggest, and possibly one of the most heartbreaking TV shows in history. Where does the show go from here after season 6 of Game of Thrones? That's the question on everybody's minds, and that's the question that I have in my mind after the finale for season 6. And after watching the entire season for 10 weeks, yet over 10 hours of just amazing television from beginning to end. And to be honest, it started off very weak. Before we start talking season 7, let's move forward and talk a little bit of the best parts of season 6 and maybe some of the weaker parts. By the way, guys, spoiler alert if you have not seen season 6, I'm going to be talking about everything season 6 and probably everything in the past as well. So spoiler alert if you haven't seen season 6 at this point. One of the weakest parts of the season, to be quite honest, for me at least, was Daenerys. Early on in the year, because she was left alone with her by her dragon. That's good. That's good. Just get your army and go west. And it took her the entire season to get there. And I can't complain too much because she's finally there. She's finally headed into Westeros. And that was the one thing that kept killing me over the last couple of years with Daenerys. She's been at the Essos for too long. She's been gathering her army, then trying to keep Meereen and fighting the slave masters. And now here she is, left alone with the Dothraki. And then she returns and she dominates. And I'm just like, okay, cool. That's great. And her stuff with Tyrion Lannister was great. I loved it. And at the end of the season, I finally felt like, okay, it's like we could have skipped the whole Dothraki thing, and she could have just said, all right, I went back to Dothraki, and I got back all of these men and all these horses, and now we're ready to move forward. I love the part where she had her dragons come and just destroy all the Masters' ships, and that was just epic, how she was just so dominating over everything going on in the battlefield, and Tyrion's just like, yeah, that's my queen over there. Speaking of Tyrion, he's made Hand of the Queen, and it was very heartwarming and great to see Tyrion back on favorable ground as far as power goes, because he was very much on that Lannister team with the Baratheons and Tommen, but now he's on the right spectrum of power. He's back on the team that's going to win the Iron Throne, and he's back on that revenge tour. He's coming after Cersei. He's coming after the Lannisters with full power of dragons and Dothraki, and I'll get to the other people later on. But one of the greatest things about Tyrion this season is he was able to conduct alliances. He was able to maintain control of Meereen, which proved to Daenerys, even though the Masters came back and almost slaughtered everything, you did your job. You did a great job trying to keep it steady for just as long as till I get back. And that was his job, and he did his job. Even though him and Varys went to their separate ways, Varys understood what Tyrion was capable of, and Tyrion was understandable of what Varys was capable of. And so Varys went over and conducted alliances with two major houses in the Westeros, and Tyrion also kind of helped Daenerys win over the Greyjoys a bit. Speaking of the Greyjoys had their own drama going off in the Westeros with their uncle, Euron Greyjoy, coming over and trying to take over the entire Iron Islands, and now he's here and he wants to lure in Daenerys and try just take control of her dragons, take control of her, and to dominate the West. And to be honest, he's probably just gonna get burned alive by dragons anyway. But as for the rest of the Greyjoys, Theon and Yara Greyjoy did a great job moving forward and running away with plenty ships to aid Daenerys, and now they have a legit claim to the Iron Islands with dragons, with Daenerys. That's just awesome to see. I'm glad to see that the Greyjoys are back on the winning side. They're not being pushed around, they're not being tossed aside by other parties, they're in the winning party. I'm excited to see the ocean and what's going to happen in the Battle of Ships, because I really feel that there's going to be a conflict of Daenerys' ships and Euron's ships eventually before they reach to Westeros, because even though Daenerys is on her way to Westeros, I do think that they're going to burn out a little bit of her on the ship. I don't think she's going to be on that ship the entire season, but I do think that there's going to be a battle that they need to get past through before they reach Westeros. Another two allies that kind of came late into the fold with Daenerys is with Team Khaleesi. I'm going to call it Team Khaleesi. That's what I'm going to call her group, Team Khaleesi. Another two houses that joined them were the Martells of Dorne and also the Tyrells. Now, before the season started, there was conflict between the Tyrells and Lannisters, and it was eventually going to fail. But at the same time, you're wondering, where are the Tyrells going to go? How about the house that they originally supported before Robert's rebellion? But the Queen of Thorns is on her way to reach some revenge for her family, and she's off not seeking land, not seeking money, but she's seeking some Cole Lannister blood, and that blood of Cersei Lannister and what she did to her family and what she did to her, lineage and what she did to her house, pretty much. So let's talk about the revenge of the Martells. We all felt terrible after Oberyn Martell was destroyed by the Mountain, and I just was so angry because this is another cool character that Game of Thrones killed off in one season, and it was sort of a waste, but at the same time, it kind of offered some leeway for Dorne to move forward, even though the Dorne storyline was just completely dropped after the first 2 episodes. Even the producers knew that the Dorne storyline wasn't very strong, but they brought him back because they realized, you know what, there's a major house out there that we left, so we should probably put them in the fold, and they have a legit revenge storyline. They still haven't gotten revenge for what the Lannisters did to Oberyn Martell, and what the Lannisters did to Oberyn's sister as well, because we never really got that revenge. We never saw Oberyn take down the Mountain and kill him, because the Mountain's still alive as a zombie. Speaking of Lannisters and cold-bloodedness going on, let's go to King's Landing and talk a little about what Cersei was up to and what she was trying to plan out. She was very much holding her own and holding down her fort the entire season, fighting back every chance she had at the Faith Militant. And at the same time, you hate Cersei Lannister, but at the same time, you see her overcome all of this, and you're just like, dang, she's just so cold-blooded. There's nobody that can kill her. There's nobody that can stop her. She's very much Mad Queen at this point. And what drove her to Mad Queen was what happened to her son after, what she did to the Scepter and killing all those people, including the wife of the king, Tommen. Tommen was lovesick. Tommen very much not the greatest king ever. He was very weak. He was very easy to control, but at the same time, whenever that control was lifted from everybody else, and he felt like a failure. So, very much like Bran, he dove off a window. There's no doubt in my mind that Tommen was a better king than Joffrey, but he was more of a pushover than Joffrey, so he wasn't really a better king. He was just a calmer and much more tame person. He didn't very much hold up to the standards of the Lannister name or even the Baratheon name. It was just like a pushover. He was just that horrible mutt that nobody really trusted, nobody really bought as a king, which was unfortunate. I really liked Tommen, but it's casualties, man. There's casualties. And now with no Lannister kids left for Cersei, what is she going to do other than name herself Queen of Westeros? Yes, Cersei Lannister names herself Queen of Westeros, and Jaime just gives her a smug look and says, I can't believe you just did this. I can't believe you just destroyed the scepter, and I can't believe I'm in love with this woman. Because she's stone cold crazy, and she's my sister, and she's probably going to be a really bad person the rest of the time. So, could we get Jaime Lannister versus Cersei at one point? Yes, there's conflict there. She's caused a lot of deaths, including their son's death, the king, and so he's very much responsible of what she's done, because what she's done was just terrible. And so you realize at one point Jaime's a good guy, even though most of the season he was kind of playing the bad guy. And I was like, why are you helping the Freys? The Freys are terrible. I hate the Freys. They killed off Robb Stark and they killed Lady Catelyn. Why are you helping the Freys? I thought you were a good guy. But don't worry, I think that Jaime's going to reach that redemption storyline very soon, and at one point him and Cersei are going to have a point to where they just cannot agree anymore. They can't stay together anymore, and it's going to come to a conflict. And I can't wait to see what will Jaime do. Will he pull a Kingslayer and kill his own sister? Is Jaime Lannister the only person coming after Cersei? No. There's one woman that's coming after Cersei, and she's very cold-blooded as well, and that is freaking Arya Stark of Winterfell. The girl has a name, and her name is Stark. I just loved Arya's storyline until she got to freaking Braavos. When she was at Braavos, it was very much like Daenerys. I'm like, okay, we understand you're going through a story arc and you're going to eventually leave religion of the faceless man. I get it. Get to that point. I don't want to see it branch out for 6 episodes, and that's what we got. Much like Daenerys, both of those characters in the East were just stretched out and just like, get to Westeros. Both of you, just get to Westeros. It's just a better country. It's just more interesting. There's just more things going on there. And when she finally got there, she came after one person first, and that was freaking Walder Frey. And I was so happy to see her get her revenge. Very much Cartman, Eric Cartman-esque at that point, feeding Walder Frey his children. That's just crazy right there. But that's Arya Stark, and she knows that Walder Frey was very much responsible for what happened at the Red Wedding, killing her mother and brother. If I was Arya Stark, I'd be like, bravo, bravo, let's move on to the next list. Next two people on the list is the Hound, which is alive. He's alive. The Hound is alive. I'm so happy to see that he's still walking on this earth, because there's a chance we'll get to see him versus the Mountain, aka the zombie man of death. The Hound is alive. I hope that Arya takes his time killing him, because I really think that Arya should spare the Hound. Who does the Hound kill? Oh yeah, the little shepherd boy, the little farm boy from season 1 that no one really cares about. But she has to. She made a list to kill people, and she's gonna kill them all. And she's coming after Cersei. That's what I said earlier. And Cersei better watch out. She's got a lot of enemies in the north, a lot of enemies coming from the east, a lot of enemies coming from everywhere. Got a lot of enemies. Lot of enemies. That's Cersei. Cersei Lannister's got a ton of enemies. I mentioned earlier how Cersei was using wildfire. That wasn't the first time we saw wildfire used this season. We saw it in the flashback by Bran Stark whenever he was visiting the Three-Eyed Raven. Yes, we got to see the Mad King, who was yelling, burn them all. I love the fact that we got to see the Mad King. It was just so cool. I've never seen a Targaryen on the throne. And not only did Bran find the Mad King in a flashback, he found a very important tower of Game of Thrones, the Tower of Joy, which was where Lyanna Stark was being held captive by Rhaegar Targaryen. And she apparently was giving birth to a kid. And Bran went up to the tower along with his father, a young Ned Stark, in a flashback. Both of them went up the tower. You know what we saw? We saw a little baby. R plus L equals J. There it is, out of the system. Rhaegar Targaryen and Lyanna Stark came together, got married, had a baby at the Tower of Joy. Came out was Jon Snow. The Song of Ice and Fire. Jon Targaryen. That's just awesome. People are going to be wondering what to call him. Jon Targaryen, Jon Stark. I don't know which one to call him. I'm going to call him Jon Snow, because Jon Snow knows nothing, and it sounds better. King Jon Snow of the House Stark and Targaryen. Warden of the King in the north, and the rightful king to Westeros. Not really. Daenerys is the rightful queen because she's older and she's his aunt. So there's the lineage there. But I'm just saying right now. I'm calling it right now. Jon Targaryen for the Iron Throne. Huge moments going up in the north with him and Sansa Stark. Alliance is trying to form in the north, preparing for the battle for Winterfell once again against Ramsay Bolton, formerly Snow, legitimized by Roose Bolton and then killed his own father after being threatened by a child. But Ramsay Bolton, a cold, calculated former bastard, killed his mother, killed his little brother, and killed his own father. At this point, you're just like, just kill him off. Just kill him off in the most brutal way possible, and we saw that happen. In episode 9, whenever Jon Snow finally broke through and we had our major battle and another freaking Stark had to die, Rickon Stark, rest in peace. You couldn't walk zigzag, you had to go straight. You couldn't walk back and forth, you couldn't avoid the arrows, and you're dead. Jon finally broke through, and we had an epic battle, probably the best battle of Game of Thrones at this point. I loved the final battle. I loved everything about it, from the action, from the music, from the cinematography, from where Jon Snow was going, from what happened at the very end. It was great. I loved it. But to be honest, without Sansa Stark, I think Jon Snow would have died for the second time. So he was revived by Melisandre, the Red Witch. And we got to see her old. We got to see her old. Apparently she's like 100 plus years old, and she's gray, and she's old, and not as attractive as a lot of people thought she was originally. And it was kind of disturbing. In fact, it still scars my head. Yeah, it was painful to watch. Let's move on forward. Jon Snow finally breaks through Winterfell, demolishes Ramsay's arm. Demolishes Ramsay's face and just brutally hits him. And then he realizes, he stops and he's like, oh wait, this isn't my kill. This is Sansa's kill because he freaking raped her. Sansa deserves to kill the man. So then they locked him up to his hungry hounds. And he's like, nah, my hounds would never eat me. They're so loyal. And Sansa's like, remember, you didn't feed them. You don't feed your dogs, they're going to eat you. That's how it goes. You don't feed your pet, they're going to murder you, and they will eat you. Because that's their freaking animal side coming out, and you got to be aware of that. Because if you're not aware of that, you're going to end up like Ramsay Snow. That's how it's going to happen. Ramsay Snow, not rest in peace. I'm glad you're dead, because you're a total jerk and you deserve to die after everything you've done to your family, after everything you've done to Sansa, and pretty much Theon too. But while Jon Snow and his sister Sansa were gathering armies for this amazing battle, we got to meet Lyanna Mormont of Bear Island. Wow, she was awesome. She was great because she was a 10-year-old, but was acting so tough. And you're thinking to yourself, that sounds generic and kind of cheesy. No, no, she's no cheesy little 10-year-old girl, that's for sure. And she knows exactly what family to commit herself to, and that's Stark. At the very end of episode 10, whenever she names Jon Snow King of the North, according to her house, she called everyone out. She's like, "Hey, you didn't show up for the battle. You didn't take the call. You didn't join Team Stark, and you didn't help them take back Winterfell." She pumped everyone up, and eventually, house by house, they all committed themselves back to Stark. But like I said, some bad things with the season was just the slower pace in the beginning of the year. Beginning of the season. I just think that you could have skipped a lot of things with Daenerys and the Dothraki. You could have skipped Arya and some of her things going on with the freaking play. I didn't care about the play plot at all. I was just hoping to see her go to Westeros eventually and do what she was supposed to do. Some of the times we were still lingering in the north a little bit with the Castle Black, and although Jon Snow's final act in Castle Black was awesome to see because he finally got revenge on all those people that killed him. I just think that we didn't really have to stay up there too long. Things are happening, people. Things are happening in Game of Thrones. If you are not on the bandwagon, you're missing out, my friend. You're missing out because this show's red hot. It's about to get even hotter in Westeros. But the Night King is on his way, along with his army of the undead. That's another thing I'm waiting to see. I'm like, all right, get past the wall already. I want to see you guys get past the wall. Let's see you guys actually cross it and get past everybody. But you know what? There was one person that stopped the Night's King's army, and that man was Hodor. Man, when Bran Stark was going back to the storyline and then visited Hodor at a young age, oh my gosh, the feels, man, the feels are everywhere. If you haven't seen that episode, very emotional episode. If you haven't seen it, you got to go watch it. But before you watch that, you got to watch everything else beforehand because it's gonna mean more if you watched everything beforehand. But I'm just saying, Hodor, you're awesome. You're awesome. But that was season 6 of Game of Thrones, guys. What an amazing year for Game of Thrones. What an amazing season. Leave a like, please, if you like. That'd be amazing. Leave a like if you like. I'm going to say that more often. Leave a like if you like. And also comment and let me know what you think of the future of Game of Thrones is going to be. Are we going to get a full season? Are we going to get a division of seasons? Are we going to get a finale movie in the theaters along with televisions? Let me know in the comments below. Also, tell me your favorite part of season 6. I just want to know. Was it Hodor? Was it the battle? Was it the coronation? Was it the scepter getting blown up? Was it the final Daenerys scene? I don't know. A lot of amazing things happens. Let me know in the comments below. This has been Joel from Real Talk. Thanks for watching.